Hi, it's Dennis Daly. Do you remember a time 20 years ago when they actually served food on the airlines? Well, I was invited by Northwest Airlines to go to Minneapolis and sample their new cuisine. They were working hard to come up with some really inventive recipes to serve on airplanes, something that is long gone. It was a fun trip, and they gave me too much to eat. One of their nicest people in food service is a lady named Jill. I sat down to talk to her about what Northwest is doing, kind of blazing a trail, if you will, on airline food, using some of the recipes from restaurants in Minneapolis and San Francisco and Seattle and Memphis and some of the other major cities they serve. I asked her what has been the reaction so far and what it's like to try to take those restaurant recipes and make them capable of being served on an airliner.
Well, I think that is the most challenging. It's the most exciting from our standpoint because you have a very controlled environment, that you have a lot of time issues, a lot of timing issues, and you have a huge group, the flight attendant group, that you really need to accommodate with their needs. So it's a lot of fun, and to throw in the creativity and the innovation in food is just another way for us to differentiate ourselves.
You know, you said something there that as often as I fly and thought I knew a lot about flying, I never really thought of before, and that is food by its very nature is perishable. You know, if there's nothing worse. I mean, anyone listening who has cooked a meal and had people either come early or late understand what that's like. But I just, when you said that, suddenly realized the fact that you're meeting a lot of timetables.
It's all in the timing. It really is. So we can take something and you have to structure it for the length of haul and the operational issues of what kind of aircraft you're on, where you're flying to, what the profile of the customer is, what they would like, and put that all together in the mix.
I heard a flight attendant one time say that food on planes serves several purposes. People expect it to start with. I've always thought on a long flight particularly, there's something very calming if you like it.
Mm-hmm. There's something to say about comfort food, and we do try to meet that need of, we have certain things that I would identify as comfort food on the flights, but it is entertainment. It's something to keep your mind off of the length of haul in some cases when you're on an extremely long haul. It's something that you also try to bring you into the timetable of where you're going. Say, for instance, on a transatlantic flight, we leave here at, I believe, 6:55 at night out of Minneapolis. You arrive in London at 8 o'clock, and you are served a breakfast.
What you have here is a departure. For example, I just flew in from the West Coast and had a lot of different things offered me for breakfast, and you have that in a basket, either cereal or yogurt or a bagel or a banana, and I said yes.
To everything?
To everything.
Well, that's one of the nice things. We try to offer as much or as little as the customer wants, and we try to adjust those ratios to help cut down our costs, because in the past we had a one tray setup with several, we called it like the puzzle. It had several little components of different things in it that was all given as one thing to one customer, where now you're able to take what you really want and you're able to meet the needs of your own dietary guidelines. If you want to take something that's hot, like a hot breakfast sandwich, you certainly can, or if you want to go for the lighter fare, just if you go to a banana and cereal, that's going to be fine as well.
Now, before, are you saying basically everybody got the same thing, more or less, and if you ate part of it, you didn't eat part of it?
Pretty much, you had a choice between if you wanted like pancakes or if you wanted an omelet for breakfast. And now you've got other things in the mix as much as or as little as you want. And the flight attendants will come around and give you a second helping of whatever you'd like, provided that they've got it left.
Still doing pancakes?
Not so much right now.
Yeah, I've always thought that's one of those things that was put there for a long time, I think, because people expected it. It's a breakfast item, but it just, from my mind, was tough to do and never really worked. Maybe your pancakes are better than mine. I don't know.
It really depends. In first class, it's a much more controllable item. That's something that you may see more of, although we're not flying pancakes right now.
I hope not. Okay, we're looking at breakfast here. This is certainly in some ways lighter and healthier. I used to see too much sausage for my own taste in breakfast meals on planes. But here again, as you say, it's totally subjective by the person.
Yeah, and if you want that, you've got that. We've got hot breakfast sandwiches that would have eggs or a sausage with it. Okay. And a lot of people really like them, so we certainly want to give that choice to people if that's what they like.
Now, one of the things you're doing that I found interesting is, and is it too early to get into the regional aspects of the cuisine?
No.
Because the first time I sampled the a la carte was coming out of here, and it was a cold noodle dish with peanut sauce that was from one of the Chinese restaurants here.
Correct. That's from Leanne Chin's, who is a purveyor here in Minneapolis that's got a high, well-recognizable restaurant, Leanne Chin. She's also got the Asia Grill, and she's also opening up stores in the Seattle area. And so we went to her and recognized there were some things that would work well in our environment and wondered if we could do some work with her. And she's been very excited, and it's gone over very well.
Now, how many cities do you have that local kind of cuisine in? Or to be grammatically correct, in how many cities do you have that local cuisine as a stepping off point?
Well, obviously Minneapolis, Detroit, and Memphis are going to be our biggest cities because they are cities where we serve the greatest amount of meals or snacks out of. But we've got anywhere between 8 to 9 right now, and we've got a lot of other cities that we're looking at where we have meal flights originating.
One of the things I thought was fun on that flight is I got actual honest-to-goodness ice cream.
Mm-hmm. And ice cream has been a very big focus for us because it works well, people love it, and seems to be a niche for ice cream vendors in many different cities.
Yeah, that's coming up, kind of like these micro-breweries you see around. What are these? Is it too early to talk about these? Something smells wonderful. Is it?
This is the Afghan bread. It's from a local Afghani purveyor, and he does a local bread that goes out with our first-class dinners, and that would go into a bun warmer, so you have a nice.
That's what I was going to say. It doesn't break
bread.
Easily cold.
No.
I was trying with my left hand to nibble a little bit of it.
Well, here, I can break bread
You
for
will,
you.
thank you very much. It's almost ceremonial here.
There you go.
And you'll have to talk because I'm going to chew for.
What do you want me to say? You ask the questions. I don't ad-lib well.
This is from a local bakery. How would this be? This would just be as you say appetizer.
Yes, it comes as a side bread complement for first-class dinners. And what the vendor is actually doing is we're supplying them the basket. They make it fresh daily and drive it over to the catering unit every day.
Wow.
So it comes out and it's actually works out great.
I wish you'd call them supper. I'm from Indiana. We call it supper. Although if you put the S, it looks like snack. So it has to be D for dinner. Now, this is very rare. I don't know of anybody else I know who's had airline food not on an airline.
And see, I would think that either one of these would be considered more comfort foods for people, something that they would make typically at home.
Yeah, now this is a nice slice of ham with, what are these, O'Brien potato?
Actually, it's a
complicated mashed potatoes.
A garlic whipped mashed potato and corn.
And corn. And then this other one over here?
This is a homemade lasagna, and that is from one of our chefs. I want to say that this one is from Chef Nancy Oakes from La Boulevard in San Francisco.
Now, pardon my asking, but did you bring any forks?
They should have some in here. They knew to have some in here.
All right.
You know, you said something interesting, airline food, not on the airline. Our a la carte service has been so popular, we've actually catered some tastings and some events at the airline with our food, and it's been a big hit. Plus, it means we get to. This means we get to try everything too.
All right, well, I'm going to try the lasagna here first. This is going to. I had the breakfast. Technically, I haven't had lunch yet. So, although this program runs at various times, so and people will know I'm always. Is this really hot? I don't want to.
It's going to be still pretty warm.
I'll take a dozen. It felt kind of funny sitting there eating airline food, but as I said, not in an airline seat. Some very good stuff and some innovative ideas, and Northwest Airlines seems to now be in the forefront of changing the way we eat on airplanes, and I thought it might be fun to focus in on that airline this week. And now Nancy brought over a wonderful dish, and I might point out, if you're joining us late, we're sampling airline food at the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport inside the terminal, not inside an airplane.
It's a chicken apple sausage, and it's an Adele sausage.
Apple sauce?
Chicken apple sausage. It's like a turkey sauce.
Apple sauce.
No. And I can get into like the specifics for you if you'd like. Okay. It's got a tomato and basil sauce. It is a cream sauce. It's something that she came up with last year for us, and we also have a version of that, a smaller for portioning size, working through the main cabin as well. And that's in various cities. We have 7 different regions that we've really regionalized all of our menus to, and we're flying it, I believe, out of 3 or 4 of them right now.
I must tell people at home, we are in that wonderful space your airline has where business executives, what's your proper name for this back here?
The World Club?
The World Club. And there are all kinds of businessmen and families in here, and some people are typing and they're on modems, and here we are eating. And every so often, someone, it's the smell is going all over the World Club here. What kind of steps do you take to make sure everything is nutritional and nice and trendy, but still very basic? What you have someone on staff? Who takes care of that?
Well, we do have an executive chef, but again, we use our chef team, which is 9 chefs from different regions, different cities right now, and they really have come up with that. But our marketing folks have recognized that the lighter trend, the trend to having sauces on the side when possible, keeping in mind certain dietary guidelines as the trend from what people want, they will do that. But we'll spec everything out to the teaspoons and the ounce sizes for every single portion.
Now, Marta, you're holding a box. Look like one of these wonderful women on Wheel of Fortune here. And what do we have behind door number 2? What is this?
What I'm holding is a Devani's Pizza, and this was one of the regional specialties. It happens at one of our largest hubs, of course, is Minneapolis, where the airline is headquartered. And Devani's is a big name here. It's a popular pizza, and we worked with them. We present it in their packaging, so they get a little fame out of this, and they worked up a deep dish, thicker crust vegetarian pizza, which looks great and tastes great. It's been a
I am going to weigh 300
item.
Pounds. Pardon me. By the time I get out of here. See, I'm allowed to eat on my own show because it is my own show. So we'll put that up here.
Like you can try.
I'll have to rate
as much or dip in and out of things.
I haven't even tried the ham yet. Let me have a little bit of that here. Would you?
That's a bone-in pork loin.
Pork loin.
Right.
Well, it comes from the same feedlot. Am I making a mess? I'm sorry. I'm getting stuff all over the place. Yeah, no, Peter. Executive cutting my pork loin for me.
Work in the space.
If I say America's other white meat.
That's right.
Would you, while I have my mouth full, explain, to move away from this a little bit, the number of specialty meals, though, people who have specific dietary problems, how they should take care of that when they know they're going on a flight?
Most people that know that they have a special need, like a low-fat, low-cholesterol, a glucose-free diabetic meal, Hindu meal, anything that would be dietarily necessary or religiously necessary, they can call their travel agent and prearrange that, or through calling directly to Northwest, arrange for a special meal. So, and many of the special meals will cross-reference one another.
What, 24 hours in advance? Is there a stay, or does it just give a little bit of advance notice, I guess?
I would say I would try to give more than 24 hours if you can. Most people make their travel arrangements before 24 hours, but they certainly can be accommodated at that time.
You know, I'm just like a little kid here. I knew we were going to talk about food service, but I didn't know you guys were going to go. Yeah, and I didn't know you were going to go to all of this extent. This is an empty, endless pit here. Pit's the wrong word. Box of food.
Box of food. Try the pizza.
Oh, let me try the pizza. And it's cute because, as you say, you have a miniature box with the name of the place on it here. I hope there aren't too many mushrooms
it's
in
been
here.
really neat for the local vendors in the different cities to be part of this program, not only because it's recognizable to passengers on the plane who are used to eating this food, but for them, they tap into a new group that maybe hasn't heard of them before, and it gives them opportunity, especially if they're thinking about franchising or different things like that. So it's been really fun.
This pizza is wonderful, and I have often thought on planes years ago, when I've been subjected to less spiffy food, that I just wish I had a plain old hamburger or you know, just a piece of pizza.
Well, absolutely. One of the things that we did with this program, besides trying to get more healthful foods, is really listen to what the customer wants, look at what they're eating at home, easy to prepare foods. In a lot of ways, we went to simpler items in pizza and hamburgers and things that you could present, and maybe things that were a little more innovative in terms of using spices and flavorings as opposed to gobbing the sauce on it and the gravies that used to be so popular in the past.
You said things that were familiar. And again, I keep talking about how things used to be. How many comedians have you heard who basically played on the issue of what is it? I mean, that was a standard joke. It was mystery meat sometimes when you would get on a plane. There is no question at all, because it looks like it. Is it served on the plane in that nice dish if you're in first?
We have the tray set up actually that it would come on right here. So the flight attendant would present it to the customer just as you're seeing it. This item now is one that I was telling you about earlier, that we have traditional comfort foods in certain markets where people want comfort foods. This is made by Chef Kevin Cullen out of Minneapolis, but we have it flying out of Minneapolis and Detroit as Heartland meatloaf with horseradish whipped potatoes. And that's what people said that they really like. It's a real Midwestern type meal, and they relate to it, so they find it and they've really enjoyed it.
You going to pass all this out here when we're done?
Yeah.
People eyeing us. One gentleman over here is...
He's ready.
The smells are good. The smells are good. Can talk about what this is?
Now, Marta, this is...
We're mixing meals for you.
Boy, we sure are. We've gone from breakfast to lunch to back to snack. What is this?
This is going to be on one of your lunches. This is a smoked turkey with Swiss cheese baguette sandwich that's on a fresh Vita France roll out of Minneapolis. We have several different variations of the baguette sandwiches right now on all of our lunches, anywhere from using pestos with chickens to a fresh barbecue by Lloyd's to something like this, and people just love them.
I just had a funny thought. Somebody tomorrow will say, "What did you have when you flew?" And that's what I'm going to have. I'm going to have to make a list here. All right, let me try some of this. I love French bread anyway.
It's actually got a real European flavor to it because it's the hard and crusty French bread loaf that's got just some real good, simple, but very good ingredients in it. We tried to take the layering out of the food and just put real wholesome ingredients together.
Marta, now slow down. I haven't finished this yet. While I'm eating some of this, tell me, Jill, some of the reaction you've gotten from people about the new cuisine.
A lot of surprise. A lot of people have said, we're glad that you tried not to make it so complex, trying to do so many things well at one time, that you got back to basics and just gave us some real good food and not so many choices of having, it's not traditional. We don't have to have the little tiny salad with the little tiny protein and the little tiny vegetable. Giving a nice salad, what you would find on this flight with your main cabin lunch, you would have your baguette and an ice cream as your choice. And it certainly is going to fill someone up. It's going to be good food, and they're going to enjoy it and not feel as though they're throwing something away and wasting food, because people are very concerned about waste today.
Some of the presentation on those little bitty divider trays, you almost feel as if you're taking some kind of psychological test to see what square peg you can do in a round hole. Particularly if you're sitting in the middle seat, you almost have to eat vertically when you have those. Marta, what do you have there? It looks like a Swanson TV dinner, but it's, oh my Lord.
More sandwiches.
This is one of our choices that you would find in first class or in the main cabin, but today we're serving it out of Minneapolis as a first class lunch baguette. And what you would get is this would be sliced in half and presented on a plate for first class with a side of sour cream.
I smell peppers on there.
Red peppers, green peppers, and onions, along with the chicken.
All right, give me a minute.
And the chicken is...
Do you have a bib? You know how embarrassing it is to have people watch you eat? Peter Willander is the director of food and beverage for Northwest Airlines, kind of new at his job, and I asked him what it was like to step into this position in the middle of a program such as a la carte, which is such a departure from the way food is usually served on an airplane.
Well, I think as part of our marketing endeavor really is to try to produce products not just in food service, but all of our products to differentiate us from other airlines. All airlines fly basically the same type of aircraft, and they fly at the same rate and provide very similar products or services. So where we have an opportunity to differentiate a product, we really like to take advantage of it. And we're fortunate enough to have a real creative group of people who are excited about constantly coming up with new ideas for food service and other in-flight products that we offer.
You bring up a really interesting point there, and that's the fact that your airline is not going to get me to Los Angeles any quicker than anyone else who flies nonstop out of Minneapolis. And you all have the same standards of maintenance, the same type of equipment, whether it be Airbus or Boeing or McDonnell Douglas. It is really the passenger's perception of the in-cabin attitude and service that really makes the difference. And I'm not painting myself here as being a friend of the airlines, but I get really infuriated sometimes when I hear people in a terminal bashing one of the airlines when the delay was caused by weather or the FAA caused the delay. It just seems really nice that when you can modify or change the things you have control over, then I wonder why more people haven't done it sooner.
Well, I think obviously that's the key, and I think as you'll see now and in the future, all of the airlines will try to come up with new and different ideas. You know, we look at things such as catering and departure lounge. You see that with some airlines now. We've chosen not to go that route because we feel that customers enjoy the comfort level of being served on board the aircraft. It's more of a process where they can relax a little bit more. But there'll be continuous initiatives to find new and different ways to do business, and to the extent that we find those ways, we'll be successful.
You know, one of your competitors many years ago used to open up, and I won't use the word they used, I don't want to give away who it was, but they would basically have happy hour on the plane. It was a part of their DC-10s that they set aside. And I thought, you know, what a really neat idea, but then subliminally I began saying to myself, this is kind of like a buffet. Instead of people serving me, I have to walk down there and get it. But that, I don't know how long it lasted with them, but that was kind of a neat experiment. At least they were trying something different.
Well, we do that in selected markets. You also have to realize we fly very, very short flights, less than 45 minutes, and we fly flights in excess of 14 hours. And we fly in markets in which we have a makeup of passengers who are primarily business people and others who are leisure travelers. On our fast track market between Minneapolis and Chicago, where we have hourly departures, it makes sense in that market for those individuals traveling to provide a choice where they can sort of put their own bag of food together and carry it on board. That wouldn't be as well received in other markets where people expect a more extended type service, where they really want to relax and enjoy the experience as well as just getting from point A to point B.
You know, you mentioned and I hate to use this word, it's so yuppie, the nexus between Chicago and Minneapolis, but that's very historic, because one of the selling points that the airline had early on was that in the days of the railroad, you could take the train to Chicago and then fly to Minneapolis and catch another train and gain a whole day.
Well, that's...
But those days have changed. Let me ask about long flights. And I've never taken a very long flight at all, although a friend of mine just went from San Francisco to Sydney and said he felt as if he owned the aircraft by the time he got off. What happens with food service there? Multiple meals, obviously, on a long flight like that?
Not only multiple meals, but the order of service depends on which direction you're flying, what the time of departure, and so forth. On a late evening flight between the United States and Europe, for instance, you're leaving at an hour that already is either at or past most people's dinner time. So in that case, the object is to try to get a meal delivered as quickly as possible. People don't like a lengthy, drawn-out service because they want to rest, and then they want something on the other end when they arrive. On a flight from Detroit to Tokyo, for instance, the flight is almost all through daylight hours. And so there you're talking about people who are going to be up for a good portion, short of maybe a brief nap. And so you're really not only in the constant food mode, but in an entertainment mode as well. So you space it between movies and other on-board type activities.
Jill, you brought more food.
Yeah, this is something that we introduced in the beginning of August. They're called lavash sandwiches. It's really a healthier choice. You'll find that on all of our snack flights now.
Now this, we better just define or describe what this is for radio. I thought I would call it a great big open-ended egg roll wrapped in a soft taco shell that doesn't have egg roll contents.
Okay, well, we'll define it.
Okay.
It's Armenian cracker bread, which to most people or the layperson would look like either a pita bread or some sort of a taco type of a soft shell. And what the caterer is doing is they're putting several different ingredients together and rolling it up and slicing it into about 4.5 to 5 inch sections. And what this is replacing is your typical snack flight that might have, like, say, a turkey sandwich or a roast beef sandwich, something small. And what it's doing is it's offering you some fresh vegetables, and it's got smoked turkey, shaved carrots, tomatoes, and then it's all inside that they're using a different kind of dressing for it. And people have been going nuts over them because it's something that's different.
What did the caterers say? I mean, when you all sat down and came up with this, and sure you went out and solicited different foods, already existing recipes, for example, from the Chinese place here, and there's Corky's, I see, which is a barbecue in Memphis. When you started putting all this together, this was new to the preparation people also.
Oh, absolutely. In many cases, it took the caterer out of actually the food preparation stage to a food handler of different outside purveyors. And so they've also had to become creative in many senses to come up with some ideas as well. Roughly out of Minneapolis yesterday, we had 25,200 and some meals go out yesterday.
In one day?
Right. Roughly, from our system as a total, we have 64 to 65,000 meals per day on average being served to customers. Of that, you might see 24 to 25,000 a day each just out of Minneapolis and Detroit. So a little less than half of that whole 64,000 to 65 is, and that's on an average day. You can go up to anywhere between 120 to 130 on a day like a holiday where you're getting a lot of heavy bookings.
What is this called again?
This is called a lavash sandwich.
You may have to help me with my silverware here.
Pick it up like a sandwich
okay,
and
like
just
an
take
egg
a
roll
bite.
here. Let me try this here. I feel so sloppy when I...
That's okay. No one can see but us. Every morning they're starting from about 4 o'clock in the morning on prepping breakfasts and lunches, getting ready, taking preliminary numbers of passenger counts and adjusting them up and down, actually till a couple hours before the flight leaves. But everything has to be packed. Beverage carts have to be packed. Operationally, all the dishware, the baskets, the silverware, everything comes and merges at a central location roughly 4 to 5 hours before a flight actually takes off. Now that will sit down on a dock until the catering comes to pick it up, merges everything together from both a food side, a service side, a materials side, or a paper side with napkins and silverware, baskets and playing cards, beverages, ice kits. It all comes together, and as the truck pulls out, then everything is tagged for that specific flight with the actual number of passengers at that point to the actual aircraft. And it goes into a staging area till that aircraft actually comes in, and then it's catered right onto the flight.
Did some airlines, or was there a practice of kind of averaging the load? Because I can remember being on flights where they ran out of food. I see that less and less anymore.
It's entirely possible that
because I wasn't aware of the fact that you were that sensitive to each flight that close to flight time.
Yeah, you need to be. And like Northwest has a buffered system set up in actual airport locations, what we call bank meals, where if a flight cancels from another airline or flights are merged and you have some last-minute people running up that have not made reservations and they just walk up to a counter and take a ticket, that can happen every single day, and it's the unknown variable that we deal with every day, to where we have up counts or we have actual meals that we can pull to try to accommodate those folks.
Now, how do you stagger things around so that a frequent flyer isn't constantly eating the same thing?
Well, we have, I was talking a little bit before how we have seven different regions. Within those regions, we have 3 cycles. So you have a total of 6 weeks where something would be on for 2 weeks and then off for 4. During those cycles, we stagger what menu is on every individual cycle. So what we're trying to do is hope that a passenger coming from the east, going through Minneapolis or Detroit and going out to the west, will not have the same food coming back.
What a fun interview. But you know, the silliest part of it all was sitting there stuffing myself in front of an audience. I'm Dennis Staley.